He's unconscious. We took you alive, see? I'll take him to the lair.
Great idea.
The Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing 3 is an isometric click-em-up from Neocore Games. For the last few years, they've been pumping up these Van Helsing games, which have mostly been well received. We've never covered a Van Helsing game before, so I was keen to see how these games play, Hex.
Yeah, me too. It begins at, well, what feels like the third act of a big story. Van Helsing came to free the land of mad science, which sounds fun, but is generally bad for others. The land of Borgovia is in political and civil turmoil. And an ally known as Prisoner 7, who had previously betrayed Van Helsing, seems to be behind the theft of scientific equipment.
You eventually learn more about Prisoner 7 and his plan, but like you say, Hex, this really does feel like the third act of a big story, and I think there's a lot of assumed knowledge with the story and the lore, but also in the game mechanics as well.
Yeah, it feels difficult to just jump into this story, and it takes a long time before you're really comfortable with how everything works.
The dialogue is interesting enough though. At first I thought the voice acting was just plain bad.
My friend, and I thought you had banished me to the sorrowful pits of despair, for reasons that I can't even...
Don't get started with the theatrics.
But then I realized this game isn't taking itself too seriously.
The gate is closed. So there goes my hope of meeting a charmingly evil creature.
The faceless Tsar is not good enough for you as a villain.
Well, it's hard to be charming without a face.
There are 6 classes to choose from for Van Helsing, including the standard rogue, wizard, and tank. We tried something new with the Philostogeneer, a scientist with a regenerating shield, a devastating flamethrower, and slowing mines. But I spent most of my time with the bounty hunter. He's basically a sniper using timed long-range attacks, poison, and frozen bullets from drones.
Combat is very similar to Diablo and other games in this genre, but you can play the whole thing with a controller, which is fantastic. It's not that well implemented, but it's enough to get the job done. Hex, I've really warmed to playing these kinds of games with a controller now since Diablo 3 on console. It just feels really good, although it did take me quite a while to get used to the cycle of abilities here before I was efficient at killing things. Part of the challenge is all of the abilities are pretty much available early on, so it's all up to you to work out how to use them all and manage your mana correctly.
Yeah, the game needs proper tutorials and a better learning curve. Being the third game in the series, Barjo, I was expecting to jump right in and have a good time with this combat. But it's overcomplicated in so many ways. One example is the combo system that you build up and release certain ability perks, and this can be customized in the deep ability trees. It's a cool idea, but a little hard to manage in the heat of combat. On top of extra abilities, there are many different layers of perks for each one. There are also reputation perks, a variety of gear types that complement certain playstyles, and also perks for your ghostly AI companion, Lady Katarina. On top of all that, there's heaps of gear to sort through all the time. I mean, this isn't a short game, Barjo, but it's nearly over by the time you actually get to grips with it all.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I still don't fully understand, especially the crafting back at your base.
Bring me a hammer and a wrench, and I'll fix anything.
I couldn't even work out how to do half of it, so I just got frustrated and ended up buying all my new gear.
Oh, no one understands me, no one!
It's just a bit too deep for its own good, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's a problem because all of the work that went into those mechanics is completely wasted if everyone can't make sense of it all. I mean, I'd say it's more fun to just drop the difficulty down and plod through, even though that means the drops won't be as good.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Unless you're playing in co-op, easy is just much more satisfying any way you look at it. I do love that you can automate so many of the systems and fiddly work though. You can also set it so your companion picks up gold for you or different levels of gear. I love options like that. She's not that great in a fight though, she's just not offensive enough no matter which behavioural setting you choose for her. I found she always just stuck close to Van Helsing, even when he's attacking enemies.
I like her story though. Lady Katarina is a spirit that's bound to Van Helsing, and as you play, her origin is revealed nicely and you learn more about what happened to her and her family.
So you made a pact with my father to get away from here?
Yes. He didn't trust me for obvious reasons, so he crafted the magical oath that binds me to your family, and that's all you need to know.
Overall, the combat is enjoyable. I never tired of slaying beasties right to the end of this game. It's full of random tough fights, AoEs that keep you on your toes and moving all the time, and interesting combinations of enemies to make you think about new ways to maximize damage and stay out of trouble. Great boss fights too, Hex.
Yeah, it's super tough and always full of spawning pods and huge AoEs. Each zone is really fun to explore with lots of little side quests to pick up, and I was surprised at how many choices you got to make in all of these little missions. Not earth-shattering, game-changing choice consequence stuff, but just enough to make them feel more than just filler.
I'm giving you a cut from the operation. 20,000 gold, if you let us stay.
Trying to blackmail Van Helsing in his own lair. A grave mistake.
And the zones are beautiful too.
Aren't they? And with thoughtful music to match. There's misty haunted forests, a creepy carnival, and later in the game some beautiful broken lands that go off far into the distance. There are a handful of moments where you can't really see your path and do a bit of backtracking, but they're barely worth mentioning. There's nice production values in the art of this game world, and that somewhat makes up for the hideous HUD and the menus, which I absolutely hate.
Yeah, the interface is a bit of a mess to navigate, isn't it? The menus work better with a mouse, but then arguably combat is more fun with a controller. Trying to select which ability you want to upgrade in your skills menu will slowly drive you insane. Leveling becomes a total chore when it should be this exciting, rewarding experience.
Yeah, it's a real pain point, isn't it? There's also this whole part of the game where you can send off generals to go and do missions for you, but after tabbing and clicking for ages, I just gave up because I couldn't work out how to select the right thing properly.
Everything seems to be fine.
There is co-op as well, but finding players is a little challenging.
Yeah, I think I only had one person join my game the whole time, and all they did was stand there and just farm mats. Do something.
I can't do that.
There are other online modes besides co-op, but once again, finding players will be your main challenge.
I did really like the death system. When you die, you can choose to respawn instantly for a bunch of gold, but if you're out of cash, it's back to base. It's not a huge penalty because money is pretty easy to come by, but it's just enough to give death some meaning.
I mean, overall there is a good game here. It's just hampered by some really rough edges and fiddly business. And I really wanted to recommend this, but I just got frustrated too much. Playing with gear and mucking about with stats should be fun, but it's not in this. It all just needs more polish, especially for the third game in the series, so I'm giving it 2 out of 5 stars. We're just so spoiled for games in this genre, Bajo.
Yes, we are, but I still think this is worth your time if you're a fan of the genre. I know I'm not going to play through this game again, there's little incentive to do that, but I love this setting, and I quite happily carved through all of these mobs over a weekend. Although maybe start with the first game in the series if you want a more complete story. I'm giving this 3 out of 5 stars, with extra points for the chimera in your base that poops loot.